As Hans Meter, and I am not Hans Meter. I'm Kathy, and I just cannot get my name to change on the screen. So you can also type a question in for us, but at this point we'd just like you to say hello. This is being recorded. Okay. As you're typing in your hello note, your good morning note, I hope everyone's doing well. A little chilly here in Pennsylvania this morning. I think I even saw some flurries. So I hope you're ready for that. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the first webinar for Autobody and Collision instructors for our professional learning community. Today we're going to focus on classroom environment, and we're calling it Start Strong, Stay Strong. We know you probably got off to a strong start, and now we're going to talk about, keeping that good momentum going. By the way, I'm not seeing anything in the chat box. Am I missing it? I need somebody to put their name in there, or I'm going to think I'm talking to myself.
Kathy, this is Jennifer Graham. They're typing notes into their question.
Oh, okay. That keeps happening to me. Got it. Okay, thank you. Now I see. So by typing notes into the questions, then other people can't see those. Is that correct? Only the presenters can see that?
I can't see anything at this point.
You can't see it. Okay, so if they, okay. All right, we did go through this once before. And Nicole said that she cannot connect by phone.
Okay, I'm going to respond to all these, so everyone I think should be able to see them at that point. And Nicole, I'll send you a message to see if we can get you connected. As long as you can hear us, you should be okay for today, but we can work on that, getting that connection set up for you.
Okay, great. Starting this off with a little cartoon. I thought it was cute. We've all been there, haven't we? And I just want to share with you who these voices are that you're hearing. Jennifer Grams and I, Kathy Schick, are your facilitators for the PLCs. We are with the Meter Consulting Group, working with PDE for this great project. And also with us from Meter Consulting Group today is Molly Shapiro. Molly, do you want to say hello?
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Thanks, Molly. So Molly and Jennifer today this morning are going to be fielding your questions and keeping an eye on the question box and helping with any technical problems, as well as putting in their input as we go along. And our special guest today is Tracy Stetler from Ready Muhlenberg. And Tracy, I'm going to do a little bit more of an introduction on you in just a minute, but if you just want to say hello, so we know you can hear us.
Hello.
Good morning. All right, and we also have in the room about 15 registrants from the Autobody Collision Repair, so thanks for joining us. Let's do just a quick tech check so that I think so far we know we had one little issue that's being taken care of. Jennifer and Molly are getting in touch with, I think, Edward. We see also that you are having some trouble, so we're working on that. But as long as you can hear me, we'll keep going. Okay, today's agenda, we need to do just a brief little bit of work for Dr. Burkett, who is the Director of the Bureau of Career and Technical Education for Pennsylvania. And then we're going to get into the heart of our discussion, classroom environment and management. And then we have a little follow-up activity and some time for question and answers. So get comfortable. We're going to get started. The first thing we need to do, as I said, per Dr. Burkett, she would like your input. There she is talking directly to you at her microphone. She would like to know what type of sessions would you like to attend at the conference, the PacTech conference this June in Lancaster. So if you were to be going to that conference, what sessions would you like? And she would like you to be as specific as possible. So for example, is there a particular piece of equipment in Autobody that you would like to see a representative from the company come? Or is there grant writing for equipment grant? Would you like to see something like that? So if you would please take the next, we're just going to take about 30 seconds, and this could be anything. Maybe it's Common Core, maybe it's something academic, but as specific as you can be, please type that in, and we will take your feedback to Dr. Burkett. So let me just give a moment for you to do that.
Kathy, this is Jennifer. While folks are thinking about that, it looks like Edward has his hand raised, and I think he was maybe having trouble getting connected by phone. So could we unmute him just to see if we're able to connect with him via his computer audio?
Yeah, sure. I see you, Edward. Okay.
Hello, this is Molly. I just chatted with Edward, and I think our audio is all set.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I do have you unmuted, Edward, if you just want to say hello. Okay, well, Edward, we're going to assume you can hear us now per Molly. Let us know if that is not the case. And thanks, Gary. What is an iCar? I have to unmute Gary because I have to know what an iCar is. I'm sorry. Gary, let me unmute you. What's an iCar?
An iCar is a curriculum that the insurance companies use for their training. I just got a grant from the Collision Repair Foundation, and they sent me an iCar curriculum that's all on PowerPoint. And I'd like to get into more of that because there's called a Pro 1 series, that when a student leaves, he can be Pro 1 certified, which is very good for jobs and for money.
Wow. So this iCar is a curriculum. You'd like to maybe have a representative from there, or?
Yes, the gentleman I've been dealing with is Rudy, and he takes care of post-secondary and secondary. But they just gave out a bunch of free curriculums, and that's what the insurance and that's what the body shops train on anymore.
Good. Interesting. Okay, thanks, Gary. This feels very rude to me, but now I have to mute you.
Okay.
This is the power I wish I had in real life.
It looks like, this is Jennifer, it looks like we have several other folks who are interested in learning more about that curriculum. Tracy noted that Steve at Reading Muhlenberg might as well, and Nikki as well. So I've made a note of that. I also see a note from Mike Miller saying there's a need to have a conference just for collision repair teachers, not necessarily for the PacTech conference. We'll certainly take that feedback back to the Bureau of CTE. But if there is something specific that you would like to see, I think they are trying to tailor some of the sessions for the specific discipline areas. So just give us some thoughts on that we'll be happy to relay back. So looks like we've gotten a couple other comments, and I'll make sure to note those. If folks have anything else as we go along, feel free to jot that into the question box, and we'll capture that information, and I think we could probably go ahead and continue on with the presentation.
Sure.
Kathy.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. And I am not looking at the webinar box right now, so let me know if there's any other questions or anything. All right, well, thank you for that feedback. Just some pictures. They're not great pictures, but I just had these sent to me. We're talking today mostly about routines and procedures, and I just liked these. This is something from LCTI. Some teachers use last 5 and 5s, the last 5 things you need to do in the 5 minutes of class, or the first 5 and 5. And the teachers say these work really well to have this kind of routine established, that every day this is what you're going to do in your last 5 minutes, the last 5 things, this is what you'll do in your first 5 minutes. And then we know a lot of teachers use whiteboards or other easels or something right at their doorway to give a daily procedure and routine. So just to kind of kick us off, I wanted to have a picture there. And now I'd like to welcome Tracy, who's going to be talking to you for the rest of this webinar, until the end at least. I have a couple parting comments. Tracy was so nice to join us today. Tracy started her career as a culinary arts instructor. Well, she was an assistant for 5 years at Berks, and then she was a baking and pastry instructor for 12 years at Reading Muhlenberg. She also graduated from that program. And in 2011, Tracy became their literacy integration specialist. So she's a literacy coach, and she spends the majority of her time helping program instructors incorporate reading, writing, listening, speaking, and thinking skills into their theory lessons and their performance criteria. So she models strategies, she uses technology to enhance program content, and she helps develop new ideas for enhancing literacy in the programs. So she's also working right now with analyzing Nocti data in order to assist with the development of a program they're creating that's specific to a Nocti plan of action. And Tracy also does a lot of work with teachers to improve classroom management. She facilitates learning walks so that teachers can learn and share their best practices. So Tracy, I'd like to thank you very much. And if everyone will just be patient for one moment, I'm going to share the screen with Tracy so that now you will see her PowerPoint instead of mine. So just let me switch over to Tracy. And Tracy, go ahead and let me know when you've got that invitation to show your screen.
Okay, I have it.
Okay, Tracy. Jennifer, can you see Tracy's screen now?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Good to go?
Go ahead, Tracy. You're ready.
Okay. Well, thank you for that welcome. Again, my name is Tracy Settler. I'm from Reading Muhlenberg Career and Technology Center. I also have Steve Johnston with me. He is the Autobody teacher here at Reading Muhlenberg. So if he has a question, he'll kind of relay that to me, and I'll make sure that I mention it. You were going to field questions through the box, Kathy?
Absolutely. Yes. Keep your questions
Okay.
coming, everyone, and we'll monitor the questions.
Yes, and that can be at any time. Really, stop me, because I don't want to get too far off the track and have to go back and answer somebody's question. So I'd like the questions, as they come.
Okay. Do you mind comments too, Tracy, if people want to add that they, not even a question,
Sure.
but just, okay, great, because we'd love your feedback, everyone.
Sure, absolutely. So what I'm going to be covering today is some classroom management things. One being routines and procedures, another engaging learning environment, and the third one will be positive relationships. And these are areas that were found to be something that the PLCs, upon meeting for the first time at Penn State, I believe a few weeks ago, were some areas that people really wanted some information about. So that's kind of the reasons for the 3 different topics here and why we chose this route. So I'll be covering each one of those separately and, again, ask questions, make comments, whatever. Most of what I talk about will be I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my PowerPoint now. Most of what I talk about will be related to things that I do here at Reading Muhlenberg or things that I've seen as a best practice possibly in other schools.
And Tracy, there was a question about, will your PowerPoint be made available? And I just so people know what kind of note-taking to do, Are you okay with us sending that out, Tracy?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Then yes, you will receive today's PowerPoint in a follow-up email probably tomorrow.
Okay. Yes, certainly. Yes, I will share any of the PowerPoint with anyone. I'll also have some websites or contacts that people may want to. They'll be on the website. I think I have them in the PowerPoint. If I don't, people can email me, and I will gladly send them any of the materials that are on the PowerPoint through, email. So if anybody wants anything in particular from what I cover, I can send that to them individually.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover is routines and procedures. And I can't stress enough about preparation and organization. And as I go through these different points, I'm going to be showing examples. So the first screen here for each topic will be kind of an overview of that topic, and then I will be showing examples of each one of those along the way. So preparation and organization, talking about what you will do, what the students will do, having that organization and being prepared for your students on a daily basis. At our school, we incorporate reading, writing, and math every day in every lesson. So we have level 1s and level 3s in the afternoon and level 1s and level 2s in the morning. So that means 4 different times we're doing reading, writing, and math. And that's in every lesson that we give. So that is the majority of a lot of things that I do here, is helping teachers embed that into their lessons every day. As you said at the beginning, Kathy, that's a big part of what I do. I'll also talk about math. I don't help with the math, but we do have a math coach. That doesn't mean you have to have a math coach or a literacy coach. I can give you ideas about what you can do if you don't have one of those coaches available to you. Mainly, what I really try to do, and this is coming from my background as being a program instructor before there were coaches here, is that I choose to use the material that is in your curriculum and how to deliver it in a way that incorporates the reading and the writing and the math every day. I'm not saying that you're to be an English teacher or a math teacher. I'm here to help you with how to facilitate those things and do your best to convey that information to your students in a smarter way. So, I'm not asking you to be an English teacher or a literacy teacher or anything like that. So I'm here to help you incorporate those things, and that's what I do here. So we do reading, writing, and math every day in the program, and I'll show you some examples of that. Clear expectations. What do you expect, and what will your students be expecting from you? A lot of this has to do with some contract grading. This is a good way to do that, what you expect that student to perform or accomplish within a set period of time, whether it's per quarter, for maybe a 5-week period, if there's a 10-week quarter, any way you want to do it that way. But in our school, we use Classmate, and that has contract grading, which our teachers are using for their students. It holds the students accountable. It holds themselves accountable for what needs to be covered during that period of time. And it puts some responsibility on the students. This is what you need to accomplish and what is expected of you by the end of the quarter. And, checking in on them, making sure they're staying on track, and things like that are also important too, because we all know that students can sometimes get off track. Gaining attention when students come in the room, or gaining attention when you start a lesson, is very important. Starting out with a video, a word, a math problem, a writing prompt, some kind of picture that you may have posted on the screen or on your board or on their computers, or a quote. We have a teacher in our school who starts off every single day with a quote. So that's AM and PM. So when his PM students come in, the quote is there as well. The students write the quote down. They have discussion about what the quote means. They reflect in their journal what they think the quote means. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with, working, a working environment. It could be, something that maybe discusses, a personal issue or things like that. So, a quote could be from Martin Luther King, let's say. So then you can even talk about the person who, the quote was said, So there's a lot of different learning that can happen with just quotes. So that teacher does that every single day. That's kind of something that he really does on his own. I am considering doing that school-wide, putting that on our screen so that everyone has an opportunity to participate in a quote if they choose. A small video clip is a good way to gain attention. It could be something that is used as a lead-in to a lesson or follow-up to a lesson. As I said before, a writing prompt. They could write in their journal every day about a certain writing prompt that you have on the board when they come in. And then different habits that the students would be performing every day. At the beginning, Kathy showed some pictures, the first 5. Those are great for daily routines. It helps the students remember exactly what they should do every single day, signing their name, in the book, showing their ID, signing their initials, getting out their journals, what have you. These kinds of things build independence. They give students responsibility. Changing into their uniform, having their glasses ready, having their tool tags ready, getting maybe their packets out to start performing some work. Maybe you have a math problem on the board they can start working on. A word of the day that they can start writing in their journal and start reflecting on. So, these can be things that are ready to go when the students walk in the door. They're up there ready to go. They sit down and they start their daily routine, and this is part of their daily routine. So this is an example of a daily reflection sheet. And this is actually from Health Medical Practice. I have a few of these I'm going to show you. This just happens to be one format. Every day there happens to be a word of the day. Now these are, in this case, she has trace, explain on Tuesday, analyze, summarize. These are 12 powerful words, and if you would like more information about 12 powerful words, you can Google 12 powerful words. You'll come up with thousands of hits on it. And basically, these are words that the students will come across whenever they take standardized tests. So trace, explain. So trace means, list in steps. What did you learn today? Analyze, break apart. What did you learn? Sum up what you learned today as a summarization. So these are things students are going to see whenever they take some kind of standardized test. These are words. So, students can write down on those lines what they learned that day. This was also something I used in the classroom as a way to track students' progress through their tasks. So if a student, let's say in baking, made sponge cake, did some preparation with sponge cake, they would write those things down and maybe list the tools they used, list the process they did, it was 2-step method, 3-step foam method, whatever. And that part is used by the instructor to, gauge whether that student is on track for that task. So this not only was a good tool for the students to reflect what they did during the day, it was good for the teacher to be able to keep track of what students were doing, because when you have 20 or 30 kids in the class, it's very difficult to keep track of what every student is doing in any particular day. They may all be doing something different. They may all be on a different task for that day. So this was a good way to keep track of what the students were covering as well, back to that contract rating issue. Vocabulary, she has a spot there for vocabulary, the definition, then she has a spot at the bottom for the math problem. So obviously she had a math problem that was shown on the board every day. Some teachers write it on the board every day. Some teachers have it on a screen. Some have it already embedded into their daily reflection. There's the baking instructor that took over my position. She actually has her words, all her vocabulary, different tools, and the math problem already embedded into her daily reflection sheet. So it's done for the entire quarter. Even she could go all the way to the end of the year if she wanted to, but she has it done at least 10 weeks in advance. So that's all ready to go for her. And that math problem would reflect whatever the maybe theory lesson would be for that day. So if they were covering sponge cake, how to break down a recipe, that would be the type of math problem that would be used. So I'm not asking, you know, anybody to do math that's out of their program area. It should be program, I believe, it should be program related. I believe the vocabulary should be program related, although we do SAT and different words of the day, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you know, to me, and the things that I do that are most impactful are with students are things that are embedded in the curriculum. If it's an Autobody student, then words should be vocabulary from the Autobody, you know, textbook or Autobody program. If it's a math problem, it should be a math problem that the students would see in an Autobody program. This is another example of a journal entry sheet. At the top, the student puts their name, Autobody word of the day. Then at the bottom, there's an SAT word of the day, and then a math problem. And that is related to an Autobody. So it talks about Autobody found he had the following amounts. So labor, overhead expenses, gasoline, what was the total amount of expenses, you know, and income, things like that. So that's a math problem that's a direct, you know, directly related to Autobody. And that's what I'd like to see in program areas, not some abstract, you know. And that's not to say that we're not trying to, you know, develop their skills for keystones or bringing Common Core. We can do that by using word problems and things of that nature. And we have a great math coach here who helps a lot of the teachers come up with some of their math problems. But using your textbooks, doing some networking with some other teachers can help with those issues. The middle box that's empty is the spot where students can write down what they did that day. You know, whether they did something hands-on or whether they worked on a project, worked on some sort of written aspect of a project or whatever. They can write that in that box. This is an example of a journal that is used by a few different teachers in our building, more than a few I should say, probably 7 or 8 teachers in our building use this format. This happens to be from Motorcycle, Marine, and Small Engine. This is a level 2 journal. This is something that he gives his students every level, every week. It's a 1-week packet that includes work every day. And every day is worth 20 points. So at the end of the week, the entire packet would be worth 100 points for a 5-day week. The student's name is there. There's a spot where grade achieved at the end would go. There's a quote at the bottom, a picture. So it kind of really gets them into the thing that this is my journal packet, it's for me, Motorcycle Book 1. This would be an example of what the next page would look like. This would be day 1. And the reason we do days is because sometimes we don't start one of these packets on a Monday or end on a Friday. So we do a day 1 through whatever. So, you know, this could be 2 or 3 weeks worth of work with the packet. So if his chapter is extensive, it could be 3 weeks worth of packets that this student would get for that one chapter. So it's kind of, he does it by his textbook. Some other teachers do it by their task list or however, you know, they want to organize it. The motorcycle teacher does it by his chapters in his textbook, and he does a day 1 assignment that's worth 5 points. That would be the MME word of the day, and he has that embedded here. It's chain drive. They would write a definition for it, write a sentence using that word. Then he has an embedded math problem, which speaks of a piston and cylinder. And then on the right-hand side would be the paragraph of the day, so explain the operating principles of a 4-stroke engine. So this fulfills his requirement of, you know, writing, reading, learning vocabulary, doing a math problem, and every day this writing assignment from this packet is tied to his theory lesson. So he covers his theory lesson. The students complete the packet that relates to the theory lesson, completes the math problem that relates to the theory lesson, and their day continues from there as far as the theory lesson goes. So everything is tied to the theory lesson. There's nothing that's just hanging there, that is kind of, oh, well, this is something you should know, but, we're not going to talk about it too much, just write about it. That's not the case here. This is directly tied to that theory lesson for that day. So this would be 5 days in this packet. This is an example of a word of the day that I put on the screens. We have TVs in every room, and we show slides every day. And one of them is a word of the day. So this is something that I do every day. I put the word up, and this can be used in classrooms as their word of the day, and they can use a program word of the day. So some instructors use both. They use this word and their program area word of the day. And then I can create games or any kind of review at the end of the week or an end of a 2-week period that could help reinforce these words at the end of that period of time. So I can do that with these words, or I can do them with the program area words. I've created smartboard games or, bingo or things like that that the teacher can use with the students as review for vocabulary. This is an example of a math mania, it's called. This comes from our math coach, and this is something the students do in their classroom. This is on the screen as well. Every week she changes the math mania, and usually it's for whatever time period it is. So this one happens to be Pumpkin Mania. This was up about 2 weeks ago when it was close to Halloween. And she has a word problem up there and then asks for different pieces of that word problem to be solved. So in this case, they shop for items to decorate pumpkins. They ordered their supplies. The catalog charges shipping and sales tax, and how do you calculate those things. And this is something that the students can do individually on their own and submit them to the math coach, or it can be done as a program area. Each student does it as a program area. This can also be a good way for a student to teach the other students how to solve this math problem. So if you have a student who does really well with math or feels as though they know how to complete this math problem, they can come up and teach the rest of the class how they came up with that answer. So it gives the students some, responsibility and an added feeling of, being part of the program, that they can teach the other students something. I used to come across this in baking occasionally, where we'd be doing something with a baking formula, and a student would say, I have another way of doing that. I would show them the way I, figured it out, and they'd say, I have another way of doing that. And maybe they'd come up and do it in an algebra, problem. So that was another way. And some students said, well, I like that way better, or I like this way better. So just giving those students the options, of seeing a different way of getting the answer to a math problem sometimes really helps the other students in the room. And like I said, it gives the students a little bit of added responsibility.
Tracy, could I stop for a minute?
Yes.
I love the word of the day and the math mania, and I like that you said it's projected on the TV at where everybody can see it. I just threw together a quick poll. If you don't mind, I just want to ask everyone to just quickly answer. I don't know if this is the correct. Oh, you can't see my screen, right? Or can you see that? Can you see the quick poll I just put on the screen?
I can't see it, no.
Okay, then we'll skip it.
I can see something.
Oh, it says my school has a closed circuit TV.
I can see it.
Oh, okay. Would everybody respond to that? I'm curious, and I don't know if closed circuit TV is the correct language, but does your school have the capability? Is there a TV in every room that you could have things like word of the day and a math problem of the day, your announcements and so forth? So go ahead and oh yeah, we do people voting. Good. So 86% have voted. I'm just curious to know, because I worked at LCTI, huge school, cutting-edge technology, and unfortunately that was something we just didn't yet have. Okay, so it looks like the majority of you were in my boat. So you'd have to find a workaround. So when Tracy said she shares that she posts the word of the day every day, that might have to go out in a hard copy or in an audio announcement. 71% of you do not have the TVs. Okay, I just wondered about that. Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, and there are actually instructors in our building that request me to send them those words through email, maybe the week beforehand, and so that they could either print them out and put them on the board for their students to see, or they put it up on they have smart boards, and so they put them on the smart board screens. So if there's that capability, I think everybody probably would have that capability to put them, at least project them onto a screen, and a lot of teachers do that. They request it to be sent to them.
I hope to see more schools work toward that idea of the TV. I know in my home district, our public school, traditional school, Parkland, they have that in the middle school, high schools, and even elementaries, and it is a wonderful way to do exactly this kind of work. So I hope that we see more of that. Okay, go ahead. Thanks, Tracy.
And I know, they use it for different announcements. They use it for, upcoming, events. There's a blood drive. They put that up on the board. So it's used for CTSO activities and, any kind of special guests that happen to be in the building that day, so the students know that there's a guest in the building, or a special event going on. So it is really, I would highly, I do wish more schools had it. It is definitely something that we utilize to its, to the fullest. Another thing that some instructors do is a tool of the week. And you could put this up on your board on a Monday. Here is the tool. And what is it? What is it used for? What are the safety precautions? And this could be something that could be a week-long thing where maybe the students haven't been introduced to this tool yet, and they don't know what it is. So maybe Monday you could cover what the tool is. On another day, maybe what it's used for, maybe some safety things that have to do with that tool, and then going out in the shop and actually using the tool and looking at the tool and maybe taking the tool apart, or cleaning of a tool or whatever. So care of the tool. So there's a lot that has to do with just a tool that can be used as far as a part of a lesson. So this is some other way you could get even a word of the day could be substituted. The tool could be substituted for your word of the day or added in addition to a word of the day. This is an example of some attention-getting things that you could use in Autobody. I just found these when I searched images, so they're easy to find. The top one would be maybe a before and after. Let's look at this, the damage that's done to this car and see what we would need to do to, fix the damage. What would be maybe the steps that could be involved in this process. On the right there, they show a man with some kind of sander, I believe. I'm referring to Steve here. Yeah. And the most important thing, and the reason why I picked this photo, is because he's not wearing safety glasses. So this could be a lesson in itself as, what is he not doing that he should be doing? And there may be other things in that picture as well that I don't see that Steve would see. But an Autobody instructor would see. But that was the main reason I chose that picture, because he was working without safety glasses. So that can be part of it as well. What the person is actually doing in the picture can be part of the lesson. On the bottom, they show someone in a paint booth, and he's, got his paint booth garb on, and that could be a discussion in itself, what he looks like and why he has those pieces of equipment on himself, his PPE on. The other part could be how the car actually looks inside that paint booth, the way it is, taped off or papered off, or what is actually being done to that car in that paint booth. So that can stimulate some conversation. And the last one, although it's a little difficult to see, examples of what the customer can expect, during a process when they bring their car in for a collision repair, damage assessment, body parts, the paint application, the assembly, and then the delivery with the payment and everything to the customer. So that in itself is a good visual for students to write down and discuss each part of that, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts of that visual. So those are some examples of some things you could use as attention, ways of gaining students' attention at the beginning of a lesson, or even in the middle of the lesson. Nocti Monday. This is something that our teachers here do. We choose Monday as a Nocti Monday. Most of the teachers choose Monday because it happens to be co-op check-in day. So students who are out on co-op have to check in with the co-op coordinator, work-based learning coordinator on a Monday. So that means your seniors, all of them should be there on a Monday, and they won't miss the review. So a lot of teachers in the PM where their seniors are have Nocti review so as not to miss any of the co-op students. This would be an example of Nocti questions that could be posted on the screen or on the board when the students come in. So 2 examples of Nocti questions that I believe are on the Nocti for Autobody repair. So one is a kind of a scenario, materials that easily catch fire or explode, so that would be like a safety question, and the next one would be a math-related question. So those are things that students could write down and keep in a journal just for Nocti questions, to study Nocti questions. And then the last one could be a hands-on more type of thing where they would have to list the tools and supplies they need to complete a Nocti task. What's one of your Nocti tasks? Hands-on. Okay, so there's a welding component to the Autobody Nocti, the performance part. So a student could list the tools and supplies they need. This could be a time when they would go out in the shop and the instructor can facilitate some learning out there that has to do with the different supplies and the steps to a process or whatever. So that could be part of a routine for the students this Nocti Monday. Okay, maybe this is a good time to stop and see if there's any questions or comments about the first part that I showed.
Well, Gary, we're jumping back to the idea of having a TV in your room that the whole school can see the same thing. And Gary said send it out with channel 1. So Gary, I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Gary.
Yes.
Can you just briefly tell us what is channel 1?
Channel 1 is a program that a lot of schools got. It was free, and you get the morning announcements and some current news, and it's geared for students, current events. And with the Channel 1, everybody has a TV, and it's a free program. So we use our AV guide just to tap in to give word of the day.
Oh, I got it. Okay. So you do have the TV in every room? That can't go out over computers? Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I think I've seen that Channel 1 then. It's like a pre-populated news show kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Gary. Anyone else have a question for Tracy as she's talking about great routines to establish? Okay, Tracy, go ahead. I think we're good to go.
Okay, so the next part I'm going to cover is engaging learning environment. And part of this has to do with materials. Proper materials are available and ready for students. Planning ahead is important to have those materials ready and available for students for that given day for whatever task is going to be completed. And this could be just simply having their packets ready, having the word of the day up, having a math problem ready, having materials ready for a hands-on demonstration and things like that. So think about all the things that you might need for any given lesson or any given thing that you're going to be covering that day and what you could have available for the students. And we'll get in a little bit into learning styles in a second, and that has to do with the materials you'll need as well. Another thing is lab setup, and this is something that you kind of maybe inherit from the last person that had your position or whatever, the way the lab is actually physically laid out. In some cases, it can't be changed. You have to live with what's given to you. In some cases, it could be changed, and here's where you can utilize your occupational advisory committee, where you can have walkthroughs and have people from business and industry come in and look at your lab setup, offer you suggestions for setting up your lab or ways of creating better flow in your lab. Another thing is the learning style assessment, VAK, visual, audio, and kinesthetic. Learning and knowing what your student's learning style is and teaching to all those different learning styles. This has to do with your materials, your preparation, being ready to be effective with the different learning styles that you're going to come across in your classroom. Is your lab area conducive to learning for every level, or I shouldn't say every level, every learning style? And I'll give you some examples of that. Grouping students, seating arrangements, doing color coding. Grouping students, this is something that you can put students in groups, make sure you're putting different levels of students within each group. Assigning a leader to that group to help the others be responsible for what needs to be accomplished. Your seating arrangement can make a huge difference in the things that are going on in your classroom. Seating arrangements can be changed. I know teachers who change their seating arrangements constantly, whether changing the arrangement of the desks or just changing the location of where each student sits at any given time can change. And color coding. This is something that is very simple, but a lot of people either don't know about it or don't think about it. But color coding is really a good tool for facilitating learning and getting students into groups and participating in groups and knowing what things are due. This is something that a lot of nursing instructors already do. They're color coding their assignments. Each quarter could be a different color depending on which assignments are due that quarter. All kinds of different color coding things are going on. And I actually have a PowerPoint that covers all different types of color coding and how you can use color coding in your classroom. So if you want that, you can email me and I'll send it to you. One example I'll give you is in one classroom, they have different islands of students, and every student island has a bucket that's color-coded. So let's say the bucket is blue. The books are covered in either newspaper or a paper bag type thing, and then they are also color-coded with a blue tape on the side. Their markers are all blue. Their pencils are, have a blue tape on them. So everything in that group is color-coded blue. So that is your group. You are the blue group. And everything that you hand in will be, it's in a blue folder or whatever. So this is something that makes it a little more fun for students. Plus, you can gauge very quickly who's doing what in what group, and where they are with that. So that's just one example of how color coding can be used. Bulletin boards, word walls, Wordles, other visuals. These are great visual reminders for students, whether it's a bulletin board with something that is exciting for students to look at and engaging. Word walls, where you're putting up vocabulary words that have to do with a unit that you're covering, or maybe Nocti words that you want a Nocti word wall. And this is something you don't have to do. This is something the students can be doing. So the students can do some fancy drawing of the word or the definitions, or choose the words that are put on the word wall, and running them by you, of course, and then having them facilitate what the word wall looks like so that they are part of your classroom and they're contributing. I'll talk about Wordles in a second. I don't know if everyone's familiar with Wordles, but we'll talk about that. Let me see. Yep, so that's it about the bulletin boards. Student mentors. This is something that worked very well when I was an instructor, and I still do it when I go in and model in classrooms. Choosing students to, have some responsibility, whether it be to be the person that is going to hand out all the supplies and collect all the supplies and keep time and doing those kinds of things. Now, that's part of being in a group with students as well. Student mentors can be used to, again, back to the math problem, they could go over the math problems of the day for students, help them work through math problems. They could be the students that choose the word of the day. If you're covering Chapter 2, and in Chapter 2 it's all about safety, they could choose safety words. And they could be the person that chooses that word of the day or chooses the words of the week. Pick 5 words and work with the instructor on the word and the definition and putting that up on the board for the instructor every day. Also, student mentors can be used to work with other students, helping a senior, helping a level 1, working on a piece of equipment or a process, or helping that student through a process. So that's student mentors. And then student responsibility and input. Students actually, from my years of teaching, actually thrive on responsibility. They like to be given a responsibility and asked to follow through with it. So, there was never a time when I had a student that I said to them, would you do this for me? This is going to be your responsibility for the next day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, whatever, and please make sure that this gets done. There wasn't ever a student who, said, no, I'm not going to do that. So, that could be part of being a shop foreman, choosing a shop foreman. It should probably be something that maybe could be done every week. So the shop foreman is a weekly job. That person would make sure that the shop is getting cleaned up properly at the end of the day, that all the tools are being put away, the shop is being swept, and desks are cleared off, everybody's books are away, and teaching students how to be a foreman is part of something that needs to be covered before you start assigning students to be a foreperson. I know that I'd have some training for students, teaching them the ways of how to be a caring foreperson, someone who can delegate, someone who's not afraid to go up to a person and say, hey, you were responsible for putting your books away, your books are still out, can you do that, instead of just screaming at somebody. So there's a whole lesson involved in teaching someone how to essentially be a boss. Having students help you develop the rules of your classroom. This has worked in a number of different program areas where their students actually broke into groups. They came up with a list of rules that they felt should be followed in the classroom every day. A lot of it had to do with attendance. A lot of it had to do with uniforms or personal protective equipment, safety things, and and then they would eventually, as a group, come up with a set list of rules, and that would be made into a poster, and then that poster is hung up in the shop area the entire year as a reminder to every student that these are the shop rules. Maybe even I've seen some where there's accountability piece there, that if you don't follow this rule, it's a minus a certain number of points. If you don't change, it's 0. You get no credit for the day because you can't work without your uniform, you can't work without your safety glasses or your work boots or whatever. So having the students help you develop those rules really helps them develop some ownership of the classroom and, take pride in their class and the students that are in their class. And this goes for making safety posters as well. The students can make safety posters. If you're having trouble with students who, forget their safety glasses, they could make posters that, funny sayings or whatever it takes to get them to remember their safety glasses or their work boots or whatever. Or, reminders about what to do when you're using this piece of equipment, and those could be posted around the room. I know quite a few come up to my room. We have a laminating machine, and they get laminated and they get posted up in the rooms. And there's another way for students to really feel like they're part of that program, that it's not just you delegating all these rules and regulations and all this stuff, that they're actually a part of it. VAK, this is the Learning Style Assessment, and this would be a sample question. And depending on how the student answers the questions that are on a Learning Style Assessment, it will gauge whether the student is a visual learner, an auditory learner, or a kinesthetic learner, which means hands-on. So a sample question is, if I'm teaching someone something new, I tend to, A, write instructions down for them, B, give them a verbal explanation, or C, demonstrate first, and then let them try and do it. So depending on how they answer that question, it gauges what learning style they are. And this is just a sample question. Usually it's at least 20 to 30 questions. And down at the bottom there, I have www.personal.psu.edu. That's a site from Penn State University that has a learning style assessment that I use here at our school. And the students take this learning style assessment, and at the end, it tells them whether they're a visual, an auditory, or kinesthetic learner. And that information is written down by the student onto a kind of like a spreadsheet, and the instructor gets that spreadsheet, so he knows or she knows exactly what style of learning that particular student is. So they get essentially every student's learning style given to them. And this is a really neat thing because the students get into this because they want to know what their learning style is, and it's good to teach them, the word kinesthetic. A lot of them don't know that, or don't know the word auditory, or don't know why they learn the way they learn. So it's a good learning experience for the students just to do this, and as well as for the instructor to learn, the learning styles of their students. So you can gauge your lessons towards that. So that is that's the link to that particular learning style assessment. There are many. We have a paper and pencil one too, but it can be cumbersome to grade. So we've gone to the format with the PSU one, which works really well for us. This is an example of a Wordle. I'm not sure if anyone here is familiar with Wordles. I would think someone here would probably know what Wordles are, but essentially they are a way, it's a website, and it's Wordle, I think .com, maybe .edu, I'm not sure, but if you Google Wordle, you'll find it. And basically all a student does, or you can do them as well, it's best if students do them, but these could be used as a visual when students come in the room to look at. They could be used on bulletin boards. Students can make them as part of a bulletin board or a Wordle board. But they can be posted in your room when the students come in, and the students would look at this and probably realize pretty quickly what chapter they were going to be covering that day in Autobody. There's respirator, there's glasses, PPE, MSDS, test safety, EPA, OSHA. So basically what you do to make a Wordle is that you type words into a box on this site, and the more you type a word in, the bigger that word will appear in your Wordle. So if you look at the word respirator on the left, it's smaller than some of the other words. That means I probably only typed it in once. Whereas auto body repair, those three words are very big because I typed them more than once. So the more times you type a word, the bigger the word will appear in the Wordle. So if you want that word to really stand out, like I wanted auto body repair to stand out, then you would type that word in more times. So in this case, this could be a good lead into a lesson where you're going to be covering safety. going to cover, you know, you're going to see MSDS, PPE, DOT, those kinds of words. So students can make these, or instructors can make these. Okay.
And Tracy, I just do want to, I know you probably aren't looking, but just note the time. We'll need to wrap up in just a minute or two.
Okay, yep, I'm almost finished.
Okay.
Yep. Should I just keep going and finish?
Yeah, if you don't mind, if you just have like 2 or 3 more minutes. I just need a few minutes at the end to close things up.
Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is positive relationships. Showing a genuine interest in your students, showing a genuine care for their success. You want them to succeed. You want them to be, you know, a good part of society, and to learn the things that you're trying to convey and have them learning the skill. Developing a relationship with parents. I can't say enough about this. Not only calling parents when there's a need for maybe, you know, when there's a problem with discipline, but also calling when there's good things to say about their child. You know, teamwork, team building activities within your classroom, having your students really feel like they're part of the team, and doing this, getting to know you activities can really make the whole class seem like a big team. There's different personality profiles, all about me boards. There's a couple personality profiles I have. If anybody wants them, they can email me. They're fun. The students really like them. Maybe a weekend summary on a Monday, fireside chats, a Monday huddle. These are some examples of some things our teachers do where they talk to their students about what they did over the weekend, taking an interest in what those students do. You know, some are on sports teams, some do this and that, you know, some like chess or things of that nature. So, you know, getting to know those students really goes a long way in you know, developing that relationship and getting them to feel like part of your team in your classroom. This is an example, actually this one and the next one are examples of personal profile boards. So this is a student, and he wrote some things about himself, put some pictures about some things that he likes. And these are nice to post in your classroom, not only for the students to look at them and they can say, oh, I'm really into Top Gear as well. You know, what did you think of this episode or whatever? Or my favorite food's pizza too, you know, or whatever. It gets them talking to each other if they don't know each other, and it's helpful for a sub. They can see their students' faces, and they can get to know those students as well. This is another one. This is a book that I'm not here to, like, you know, sell a book, but if you're interested in this book, you can email me about it or email Dick Steinmeier at PDE. But it's about skills for a lifetime. It talks a lot about the things that I covered in here. And number one, habit of success for students is building and maintaining, you know, relationships, building that relationship with your students, and it results in less discipline issues, you know, a happier environment for everybody, you included. You know, so there are the 6 habits of success. I won't go through them. I did touch on a lot of them. And why are we doing this? Because you're more than just a teacher. These are just some things that I typed in: educator, role model, guidance, career counselor, a mentor, a nurse, inspector, an advisor, a coach. And then I found that bag. You know, you're a detective, you're an engineer, you're a manager, sometimes you're a photographer, sometimes you're an actor. I used to act out things for students, you know, to get the point across, you know, dealing with customers or whatever. So, you know, we wear a lot of different hats, and, you know, that's kind of why we do all these things that we do. And that's, I hope that was okay that I wrapped up like that.
That was, and thank you, Tracy. I really do want to thank you for joining us today. I'm going to change back to my screen. I just have a few comments to make before we wrap up for today. And let me see if I can do this quickly and easily. Show my screen. You should all be seeing my fall screen here. And I hope you're seeing my screen. Tracy, do you see my screen now? I'm kind of flying through some things.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. I would love to spend more time thanking Tracy, but I'm going to move quickly so we do respect the time that we told you this would end. Just a couple of things. You're going to be sent a follow-up email later today or tomorrow, and that will have Tracy's PowerPoint. And thank you for sharing those resources, Tracy. That's really generous of you. There will also be a self-assessment, a reflection piece. And I created this piece. This is for you to privately go through this checklist of different aspects of classroom environment, classroom management, and kind of rate yourself. And then if you'd like, it could be a good springboard for conversation with an instructional coach or an administrator in your building. I chose to really model this assessment after the new teacher evaluation tool that is being rolled out in Pennsylvania this year. Maybe you piloted it last year. It's the Charlotte Danielson model. So I thought it would make most sense for us to do a self-reflection on the same components that you will see on your evaluation. And I'm just noticing a typo here on this page, so I better get off this page before you see it. So that will be sent to you with a little bit more explanation in a follow-up email. This is my all-time favorite quote. I've used this quote for many, many years. I've taught everything from kindergarten, which, boy, you haven't taught till you've taught kindergarten, to high school, which is, I should say that about high school too, right? You haven't taught till you've taught teenagers. But I just want to share this with you. I'm very committed to, I really believe this quote, so I'm going to read it to you. I've come to a frightening conclusion. I am the decisive element in the classroom. It's my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess a tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated, and a child humanized or dehumanized. I leave you with that. If you're a parent like I am, and my kids are, one is in college and one is in high school, so I've been through most of the school system, you know as a parent, if your child is not getting along with their teacher, that mood at home can be, it can affect the whole family. So we know as teachers, and for those of us that are parents, how important it is that we create an environment that welcomes students, that accepts students, that builds rapport with students. I also just want to share very quickly some thoughts that I had while Tracy was talking, and one was that in any grade level I've taught, I have always had a sign in my room that says, ask 3 before me. And in a CTE classroom where you need to have students working independently of you, just as when I was an elementary school teacher and I needed to do small group work and the other kids had to work without me, that is one way when you build that habit of you must ask 3 people your question before you interrupt me and ask me as the teacher when I'm busy with other students. So that was one little trick that really seemed to work for me, but you must obviously build that as a habit. And the other thing that I always did in a classroom for building independence was I always had on the whiteboard, or back in my day a blackboard, it's an appointment with the teacher. And if you needed to talk to me and I was busy with another group or a theory lesson or working with a student one-on-one, instead of interrupting me if it was not an emergency, you simply wrote your name under the make an appointment, and as soon as I had a free moment, I was very good about making sure I checked that board and then went and worked with that student. And finally, I just want to give a shout out to one of my coworkers at LCTI, Mr. Bill Young. I always loved going into his room. He's small engines, and the first thing kids see when they walk in his room is a quite large mirror, and on the mirror it says, would you hire this person? And I think that's a great way for kids immediately when they enter a room to take a quick look at themselves and, you know, kind of get in that mindset of, I need to be employable. And do I look like I'm being employable? So those are just a few little things that I thought of. Tracy, thank you again so much. I'm going to ask if there are any questions at this time to please go ahead and post those. We have about 3 minutes left. Anything else for Dr. Burkett?
Kathy, this is Jennifer Graham. May I share another comment?
Sure.
I just wanted to thank those of you who have submitted information for our PLC yearbook. We have compiled that, and we will be sharing that back with you as part of our follow-up email to this session. And for those of you who might not be familiar, this year we're providing a directory, or what we're calling a yearbook, of all of the members of this PLC group, so that you'll have each other's contact information and hopefully some other information about each other that will help you to build connections. So we will be sending out and sharing back the information that we've received so far. If you have anything you'd like to add to your listing, or if there are any mistakes, or if you're not in there, please let us know, because we will publish an update probably in another month or so.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I will probably be facilitating the next webinar, and that is entitled, But I'm Not a Reading Teacher, and we'll be talking about technical reading and technical writing for the instructor who may not feel super confident in assigning reading and writing that has the rigor needed for the Common Core. So that will be on, for Autobody, that will be on January 9th. So you'll have an email or two from us, but you will not probably be talking to us until, believe it or not, we can say this, until after the holidays. Oh my goodness, that's a little frightening. Thank you, and thank you for those of you who put comments in to thank us. Tracy, this has been wonderful, and you get to do it again about 1 million times with us, right? So for the next 5 groups. So thanks, everyone. Jennifer, is that it? I think we're going to wrap up and say goodbye.
Sounds good. Appreciate everyone's participation today.
Thank you. Okay, Tracy, I'm going to send out your PowerPoint. Thanks, everyone. Have a